In August, we visited the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute's mammography van, also known as the Mamo-Van. The Mamo-Van was parked at the historic Dimmock Health Center in the heart of Roxbury, bordering Eggleston, Jamaica Plain, and Dorchester neighborhoods. The van is a fabric of the community and an incredible resource providing free screenings for women ages 40 and older to detect early stages of breast cancer. Tia Goodman, program manager for the Mamo-Van, was gracious enough to show us the operations behind a typical visit. Tia, thank you so much for welcoming us on the Mamo-Van. We just entered the Mamo-Van,
Yes.
and please let us know, what is the landscape of this van? Where are we standing? Walk us through what a patient experiences when they're on the Mamo-Van.
So as soon as patients step into the van, they are entering into our waiting area. Since patients pre-register, they're usually in the waiting area for less than a minute, where we'll then escort them to our private reception area. And here the patient will sit down to the right and to the left. One of my team members will make sure that patients have completed all of their registration, signed any required forms, and completed the breast imaging questionnaire. Once all that has been confirmed, one of our technologists, of which there are usually 2 on the van for every van day, will escort the patient to one of our changing rooms. So here in the changing room, the technologist will explain to the patient how to prepare for the exam, undressing from the waist up, putting on a gown, and being sure to remove any deodorant or powder that they have on. Once the patient is ready for the exam, they'll be escorted into the exam room through this door. And here the technologist will perform the mammogram, which typically takes less than a minute. A lot of patients are in and out even quicker. Once the patient's done with their exam, they'll then be escorted back into the changing room for them to take off their gown and put on their clothing. We'll notify the patient to expect their results either through postal mail or on the online patient portal, which is called Patient Gateway. So the majority of our patients will receive notification that you're all set, the radiologist did not see anything abnormal, you should return in a year for your routine screening. But about 10 to 11% of our patients will receive a recommendation for additional imaging. Additional imaging is needed if the radiologist sees something abnormal on the patient imaging. Some abnormalities are like if there's a mass, something that looks like it could be what they call calcifications. They're checking for anything that doesn't look like normal breast tissue. And those patients that receive the recommendations for additional imaging will be scheduled for diagnostic imaging at a hospital or an imaging facility. Unfortunately, they can't return to the van for diagnostic imaging since we don't have a radiologist on site, but patients are more than welcome to come to Dana-Farber. We've got 2 locations, the main campus in Boston and also our imaging site in Chestnut Hill. All right, Carlene, thank you so much for joining us on the van today. Could you share a little bit about your experience and what made you come to the van in the first place?
So it's so convenient, and I've been coming for quite some time now, and I just like the van better. It's just not a lot of people, you're in and out, service is great.
So the van is open to the general public. On our website, we have a calendar that shows upcoming van dates and locations. The majority of our partners are located within the Boston and Greater Boston area. We partner with a lot of community health centers. You do not need to be a patient of said community health center to be screened with us. As long as you meet our eligibility criteria, we will schedule you for the van.
How often is the mammography van used throughout the year?
So the van is out year-round. We're typically in the community Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We're all about convenience. We're trying to eliminate a lot of the barriers that patients experience when accessing medical care. It's much easier to walk up the street to the van rather than having to travel into the city. Patients typically are in and out within 20 minutes on our van, so it's much more convenient and easier to access than having to travel elsewhere.
We know that there's a lot of usually fear and stigma around getting breast cancer screening. Can you share with us what are some ways that your team works with patients and coming in to help dismantle those fears?
So about 65% of our patients are returning patients, so they're in and out, they're familiar with the workflow, they know exactly what to do. I want to say about 10% of our patients each year are having their first ever mammogram, referred to as a baseline mammogram. So those patients, we will educate them prior to their appointment, just letting them know what to expect, how they should dress for the appointment, how they'll receive their results. All of that process we discuss with them thoroughly and answer any questions they may have. We also have breast health materials that we can share with patients. Dana-Farber has an online library with many resources that we'll share with patients as well if they're looking to get more education. but also the staff that works on the van is able to answer any questions that patients have and allay concerns.
I hate when I miss it, but I'm glad I'm here this year to do it.
Well, we're grateful that you came today to get your annual screening, and we expect to see you next year.
Yes, I will definitely be here next year.
Thank you.
Since the inception of the Mamo-Van in 2002, it has provided over 52,000 screenings and 171 diagnoses. In 2022, 53% of the van's patients were non-English speaking, 52% were non-white, and 70% are publicly insured. We visited the van while it was parked at the Dimmick Health Center, and it has in fact serviced 24 different locations this past year. Thank you so much to Tia Goodman and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute for the services they are providing to Boston residents through the mammography van.